All right, welcome to Week 7 of the Cavalier Insider pregame show. Andrew Ramspacher, joined by Jerry Hootie Ratcliffe, fresh off of a bye week for Virginia, and now heads into Durham, North Carolina to take on the Duke Blue Devils, the defending ACC Coastal champs. Duke at 5-1, 1-1 in the league. Virginia coming in at 4-2, 2-0 in the ACC. This is kind of the halfway point for both teams. So I guess we can kind of start right there. Hoots, Virginia obviously at this point last year was 2-4 and pretty much going nowhere fast. I think kind of the writing was on the wall. Yeah, they weren't bowl ineligible yet. They still needed to lose 2 more for that, but everybody kind of saw it coming. This year, it's basically complete opposite. Through 6 games, argument could be made they could be 6-0 right now. If you look at obviously the way the UCLA game went, the way the BYU game went, some things go differently here or there. This team's 6-0. It's ranked, all the above. But nonetheless, what it is a 4-2 team with a very, very legit shot to win the Coastal Division. Basically the same players from last year. What do you think's been the biggest difference?
In Virginia?
In Virginia.
Yeah. I think mostly the defense more than anything. I guess I remember talking to Tom O'Brien before the season started last year, and he said Tenuta knows everything there is to know about defense. He said it's just a matter of how long it takes for that to translate to the players. And somehow it clicked in over the off season and during the training camp, and they get it. And I don't see how they could be playing defense any better, really. I know that the coaches would differ with that, but
right.
From our standpoint, I think they're playing great defense. I think that's the biggest difference in the team. Special teams have improved, and I think what London says is what we all knew in the first place was that, the second year in these systems, they understand where they're supposed to be. The players know the coaches better. The coaches know what the players can do better. And I think they're getting solid quarterback play. Their guys are not being spectacular, but they're not beating themselves. Mm-hmm. And that's huge because, that's all you really need a quarterback to be. Mm-hmm. And, the offensive line has been serviceable. I still don't think they're where they want them to be, but and they've got a few more weapons at wide receiver. And so I think those are the major differences.
Yeah, I mean, you look at kind of the roadblocks facing this team when the season started. I mean, obviously the first of all was kind of the distraction, so to say, the speculation about Mike London's future. I think these seniors have done a pretty good job of kind of taking that almost as a rallying cry and saying, you know what, we were part of Mike London's first full recruiting class here. Our last year is not going to be his last year. Obviously, headlined by Henry Coley there. He's kind of taking the reins there. You mentioned that offensive line. That was kind of the second biggest headline all offseason. They're rotated in sometimes 9 guys a game. But as you mentioned, I think serviceable is a good term because only giving up 5 sacks. Running game hasn't been good, but then all of a sudden against Pitt, who was a very stingy team against the run, they go off for 225. KEVINPARKS goes back to form like we saw him last year. He ran for 1,000 yards. So those question marks beforehand are starting to kind of go away, and I think that is a big reason for that 4-2 start. Now, for this game on Saturday, you mentioned a couple weeks ago about the Pitt game. You thought that was kind of the biggest in Mike London's career to that point. They passed that test by hanging on. They're up 24-3 in the first half. They hang on to win 24-19 on a Saturday night crowd at Scott Stadium. If that was the biggest game, are these all kind of the next biggest games? I mean, this one's huge too.
Well, in one aspect, I guess they are. But I thought that game was the biggest because had they lost, who knows what direction this team would have gone in. Mm-hmm. And, they might have been second-guessing themselves. People would have lost some faith after, jumping on the bandwagon. They would have probably been jumping off even faster. But I thought that was the biggest game because I think that was a statement game they had. They just had to win that game. This one is, now that they've proved they can win games like that, even though they nearly gave that one away by making some really dumb mistakes. This one is huge for a different reason. I think it's, now they see the opportunity and they have the opportunity, and it's just a matter of whether they can reach out and take advantage of it. Winning on the road at Duke, the atmosphere is usually not that great, but I understand they're selling tickets for $15 trying to fill up the place.
It's like Christopher Columbus special.
1492, baby.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a huge game, but I think for a different reason.
Certainly, yeah. Obviously, this is another chance for kind of a statement game because it's on the road. That's kind of this team hasn't. They've crossed off they've ended a lot of droughts to this point this year. There was just the overall losing streak. There was a losing streak to FBS teams. There was a losing streak to ACC teams. Losing streak to top 25 teams. Now it's losing streak on the road. Haven't done it since 2012 at NC State. Haven't won at Duke, I don't believe, since 2006. So still a lot of things for this team to end. So can they do it? We'll break down a little bit more of Virginia and Duke coming up next. All right, welcome back to the Cavalier Insider pregame show, Week 7 edition. Andrew Ramspacher joined by Jerry Ratcliffe, getting you prepared for Virginia and Duke kickoff down at Wallace Wade Stadium, 12:30 on Saturday down there in Durham, North Carolina, place. So we previously mentioned that Virginia has not had a lot of success at here recently. So going into this one, there obviously is a lot of things on the line. We talked about that earlier. Virginia at 2-0 in the ACC. Duke, the defending Coastal Division champs, at 1-1. And Duke, we talked about Virginia's season to this point. Duke at 5-1 overall. Had some pasties there in the non-conference. Took care of business. Runs into trouble down at Miami in its first ACC game. Then comes back and on the Coastal side might be the most impressive victory of the year to this point, going into Georgia Tech and beating Georgia Tech. Something that Coach Cutcliffe I don't believe had ever done.
They had lost 10 straight games to Georgia Tech.
So kind of they broke that streak there, and so now they got some kind of confidence back. Different Duke team this year, maybe than in past with Coach Cutcliffe. Kurt Roper, the former offense coordinator down at Florida. More of a running attack. Hootie, you wrote about this earlier this week. Kind of explain to us that kind of diversified running attack with a couple different characters.
Yeah, it's kind of strange, really, to see Duke line up and run the ball. Although you can't discount Crowder, one of the better receivers in recent ACC history. But I'm surprised how small he is, how effective he is. But I guess they'll try to isolate him on linebackers or something. I guess throwing it underneath. But the running game is what I think the game is going to boil down to. I was looking at the 6 games, the last 6 games in the series, 5 of which won by Duke. And I think Virginia ran for only 100 yards maybe once in those 5 losses. And I think KEVINPARKS maybe was the guy that did it. I can't remember. But I think Virginia's going to have to run the ball against those guys. But Duke, that's their signature right now. They've got 4 or 5 backs, I think, averaging at least 4.5 yards a carry, including Boone, who is a very mobile guy, the quarterback. And then Sean Wilson, the freshman, who doesn't even start, is their leading rusher. He's averaging 10 yards, almost 11 yards a carry. So I think it's going to be a huge challenge for Virginia's front 7 to try to shut them down. And obviously that's what Virginia's front 7 is really good at.
Right.
They're number 6 in the country in stopping the run. So, I think if they can shut them down and force Boone to throw the ball, at least playing into Tenuta's hands, because that's where your pass rushers come in, Max and Coley and Eli.
Yep.
And that's what they want. They want to create some havoc.
Yeah, the Duke, a big reason you talked about Anthony Boone. He's a guy that made his first career start against Virginia 2 years ago when Sean Ramspacher was hurt. 15-3 all time as a starter. Numbers aren't spectacular, but certainly he's gotten the job done. He might go down as one of the winningest quarterbacks in Duke history, just because of these last couple years and what he's been able to do. But I think the main thing he does this year, and that offense does this year, they don't make a lot of mistakes. They're low on penalties. They don't turn the ball over a lot. There's only been 4 sacks against them all season. It's almost a strength against strength this weekend. Virginia's defense thrives on sacks, thrives on takeaways, near the top of the country in both. Duke is not. They're going to take care of the ball. They're an experienced club, stuff like that. biggest challenge yet for Coach Tenuta? Is this, I mean, maybe not the most explosive offense they've played, but certainly maybe the smartest.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Andrew. They probably are the smartest. I think Cutcliffe might be the best coach in the conference, actually. He's been noted as an offensive guru, obviously grooming the Mannings for all those years and being a master of the passing game, but he's shown that he's not one-dimensional in his thinking. And Duke usually is a pretty smart football team. And in years past, they weren't the most physical guys in the world, but that has changed a little bit. He's brought some toughness to the program. So, yeah, I think it could be Tenuta's biggest challenge. UCLA was pretty darn good.
Right.
And BYU, of course, had just a wide-open offense. But I think in terms of just trying to play that chess game, I think this might be his biggest challenge in trying to find a way to shut that offense down.
And a big thing for Coach Tenuta and this whole Virginia offense is when that third quarter, no matter what happens in the first quarter, that third quarter starts, they got to figure out a way to finish the game. The Pittsburgh game, 24-3 lead first half, hung on to win 24-19, which is almost like a perfect segue into playing Duke, where the last two games against Duke, second half scoreboard, Duke 56, Virginia nothing, including last year when the Blue Devils down 22-0 in the second quarter at one point, come back to win 35-22. I believe 2 years ago down in Durham, it was a 17-14 Virginia lead at halftime.
Right.
Dukies won that thing 42-17. So they got to figure out how to finish the game because the Blue Devils have proven to be really good in those final two quarters. So.
Yeah, and this Duke team also, I think their top two scoring quarters are the second and the third, so they try to finish strong and open strong.
Right.
Virginia's got to be very cognizant of that.
So all that, I think we kind of got all the storylines out of the way. We'll give you a score next. Can Virginia go on the road and knock off the Blue Devils in a kind of a huge clash of ACC coastal defenders or coastal contenders? We'll tell you our predictions after this. Prediction time here at the Cavalier Insider pregame show. Andrew Ramspacher, Jerry Ratcliffe. Our final segment to break down Virginia and Duke again. Kickoff 12:30 down at Wallace Wade Stadium. Durham, North Carolina, Virginia sitting alone atop the Coastal Division at 2-0. Dukie's one game back at 1-1, just for the whole cluster of other teams. This wide open race continues, and this is one of the biggest games. Certainly, that can go a long way. Think about tiebreakers down the road. Virginia and Duke are to be tied. This game is going to mean a whole lot. So a lot of importance will take place Saturday. You know, again, this is kind of been my thing this year in predicting. I need to see Virginia do it first before I trust them to pick them to win. In this particular case, it's winning on the road. Haven't done it in such a long time. Haven't done it at Duke in such a long time. I think the Cavaliers can do it. Again, I need to see it. I think Duke, with that experience, of all these teams contending for the Coastal Division crown, Duke, I think, has a little bit of an edge just because they went through it last year. And Virginia Tech, to an extent, too, because they've been through it in years past. But I think because of that slight experience gives Duke just a slight edge on Saturday. I'm going to say Duke 20 and Virginia 17.
Well, I'm going to go the other way.
All right.
I don't think we've agreed all year
think
long,
so, yeah.
which is really weird. But I'm going to go the other way this time. I do have some reluctance because of the same issues you pointed out. But I don't think Duke has faced a defense like Virginia's this year. And I think that's going to be the difference. So I think there's going to be some turnovers in there, and depending on whether Lambert or Johns plays, somebody's going to have to take advantage of those mistakes. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go with Virginia also in a tight one. I'm going to pick Virginia 23-20. I think Mr. Fry's leg is going to be the difference.
Well, Mr. Fry, I think at some point, one of these pregame shows, we'll make just dedicate a segment to IANFRYE and how well he's done. Maybe be like his Lou Groza campaign.
Maybe we'll have him as a guest.
That guy's been phenomenal. He might have been the offensive MVP of the first half of the season. There's no doubt. So, Hootie says he could be the difference. I'm just a little hesitant to give Virginia an edge. We'll find out on Saturday. Until that time, thanks for watching.